Everybody, I'm Tony Fleming from Fleming's Ultimate Garage. Thanks for joining me on one of my favorite cars in the world, these replica Cobras. This is not a kit car. And so what I mean by that, and I like to explain that a lot of times when people say, is that a kit car? Well, there are kit cars out there, but what you really want is a replica. There's a few makers that do these, and what I mean by a replica is it's built on an assembly line and a factory by the same people over and over, giving you the same kind of car versus a kit car, that might be built in your garage by somebody you don't know, or if I'm not qualified or whatever, and this is what you get. So Backdraft Cobra is selling for over $100,000 right now. These, as a used vehicle that someone's driven a little bit, are the only way to buy, well, I shouldn't say the only way to buy them, but maybe the best way to buy them. You save a lot of money on them. They're still fabulous, they're still great, and they're new to you, all right? This one here in a great color combination, we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about stripes, rivets, suspension, all kinds of little things that separate some of the cars that we'll look at maybe online, and you say, well, why are some cars $50,000 and why are some cars $150,000, right? There's a big disparity between these cars. I'm going to bust the myth of that and go ahead and get that out there so you know exactly what we're talking about. Let's get started. All right, so this view here is fabulous. Let me just tell you, people look at these cars and a lot of times they say, oh my God, that's a great looking car, but we don't really know why it's a great looking car. There's certain features about a car that make it different. For instance, no other car in the world looks like this car. There's no mistaking this car for a Chevy Chevette, right? Or a Saturn Redline, even though the Saturn Redline makes a lot of power, so I've been told. Anyway, when you talk about these flares here, we talk about these 17-inch wheels, right? The reason these are 17-inch wheels because they have big brakes inside here, and it had to be bigger to fit this. This has a BMW suspension in it, right? So this is what we would separate a backdraft car from maybe other vehicles. Safety wired on here for the spinners. Side pipes are polished. This titanium metallic paint looks fabulous. And I think what we should do is talk a little more about the quality of the paint. So let's get up here and do that next. All right, so when we come up here and we're talking about paint and detail things, I want to point out little stuff. And you say, well, Tone, these little things, they can't amass to a lot of money. Well, actually they do because they require multiple steps, okay? So for instance, a car gets painted, right? And then in this case here, you can't feel these stripes. So what's happened is the car was painted, wet sanded, right? Then the stripes were laid on, wet sanded, and then the whole car was re-cleared, okay, giving you this smooth finish. Why is that important? Well, it's because as over time, as you wash and wax this car, cars that aren't clear coated all the way over, right, the stripes start to tear and they start to disintegrate and you have to do it all over again. Secondly, this car was painted and then the rivets were put on. Well, Tone, why is that a big deal, right? Well, because that's a whole nother step that has to happen. The car is all painted in the disassembled mode, then it all has the rivets put back together, and that's what makes them so much nicer. A Superperformance Cobra has that same kind of look too. The less expensive cars you'll see have the rivets painted over top of them. And then again, inside here, we have an enormous cooling system going on with twin fans in here, another fan on the inside, oil cooler. Like, this is a serious performance vehicle, and you need to be pointed straight as you learn to drive these cars because they're fast. But we have a four-wheel independent suspension underneath here. We have sound that you can't get out of any other car, and it really is fabulous. All right, lastly, let's get to the paint quality. I like to do this here. If you could, look at the ceiling and the lights and the paint, right? Don't look at the paint. Well, Tom, you said look at the paint, but don't look at the paint. What does that mean, don't look at the paint? What I mean by that is, if you want to learn how to look at good paint, look what's in the paint, not the paint itself. Meaning, come on up here and check this out. When you can see the lights in the ceiling, the ribs that are in the ceiling up there, when you can see every letter here like a mirror, that's what I call a mirror finish. That means it's a much better paint job, much better, okay, than a standard one. All right, so you're probably going to go to a car show or two, and people are going to ask you things about your beautiful car, and you have your choice, because many of our clients don't really care what's under here. They just want a cool car to drive. I love that too. Some people want to go to a Cars and Coffee. They want to go to a car show and what have you. Well, what we have here is the ability to open this up and be able to do what I call just a view of the front and rear of these cars. People love these cars. They love these cars. It's probably in the top 2 or 3 cars that we drive here all the time that get the most attention. And the reason why is because you never really see one. And here, it's amongst some other great-looking supermodels in the showroom. However, out on the road, it looks like nothing else that's out there. Here we have the Cobra engine dress-up package in here. We have stainless headers. We have aluminum heads on top of a 351, okay? Remote oil filter, polished overflow tank, electric fan up here, and the dual fans there. This has power disc brakes as well, four-wheel. A lot of these cars have just disc brakes. This has power disc brakes. And then everything in here, detailed, painted, and all. Lastly, what it does have is real-world livability. Well, Tom, what does it actually mean? Well, it has heat. It has a heating system in the car. It comes with it. So like on a day that's, say, in the 40s, this is a great car to take out. You put on a jacket, right? You turn on the heat and you go for a drive, and it is so fabulous because everybody else is all bundled up in their cars, and here you're wheeling around in your cool car making sounds like no other car makes. All right, so in Cobras, you have a couple choices for some things. Back to this original paint question that I had mentioned up front is that when this is done and clear coated all the way underneath, it's a little bit more quality, right? These are polished quick jacks. You say, Tone, what's a quick jack? Well, I'll explain to you real quick on that. But you have two choices of bumpers. You had a street bumper, which is the hoop, right? This can be exchanged for a street bumper if you want on the front and back. Or these quick jacks were for racing. And the way it worked is there was a bar with two posts, and during the racing, they would come up to it, and they put the bar in between here, and they push it down. It would jack the car up. They could change the wheels and tires quickly and put it right back down, and boom, it was done. They didn't have to get underneath the car because the car was so low with a jack. They didn't have to go from side to side. They didn't need more people. It worked out really well. Lastly, I like to talk about sometimes usability of a car. So this is a performance sports car, all right? And what that means is that it's designed really to go fast. However, in this case here, we have a trunk that is usable. Look at all of that. Holds 3 or 4 soft bags. This is a tonneau cover that you would put on the snaps that go around there when you went to the hotel or went to whatever. It keeps the dust and things like that out. Even if you go to a car show or whatever, you might want to put this on. Just keeps the dust and dirt out. It looks really nice. It's made of canvas and looks really good in there. Obviously, you got the polished roll hoop there. The trunk works like it's supposed to. The battery's back here, taking some weight out of the front end of the car. You just pick this up like that and lock it, and boom, and you're ready to roll. All right, so I love this shot. You're walking up to your cool car, man, side pipes, big wheels and tires, people looking and going, why is there wire on the holding the wheel on? Why do they have, how does it stay on with just a piece of wire? Little do they know, that's just safety wire designed for racing, right? Looks really cool. That's enough of looking at it from the outside. You know why? Because eventually you're gonna wanna get inside. Let's go ahead and do that right now and see what it looks like in here. So, one of the questions I get many times is, I'm 6 feet, and can I get in these cars? And the answer is 100%. Can you get in these cars? Well, I'm 6'1", and I have plenty of room in here. So a couple things that you may or may not know about as well. This is leather, beautiful carpet setup in here with binding. I'm saying that to you because many of the cars that you'll see that are priced in all these different ranges are missing certain things, like these billet pieces here. The VDO gauges, they would have like Stewart Warner gauges, which are the quarter of the price of a VDO gauge. 220 mile an hour speedometer, 8,000 RPM tach, a Moto Lita wheel with the 3 spokes and the wood and the rivets, right? This is an expensive wheel. It's $700 by the time you're done with it. You say, Tone, $700 isn't much. Yeah, but $700 here. It's $600 here. It's $3,000 here. It's, you know what I mean? It goes on and on and on, and you're getting a much better car. Now, having said that, I talk about the paint part. Here, they painted all the way, the stripes here, all the way inside the car, which is pretty cool. And lastly, one of the things that people ask me about all the time is, why is the shifter like this? Well, the reason the shifter is like that is because if the shifter was sitting straight up like this, every time you shifted, you would hit the back wall back there. So they, instead of having to figure out how to make this work with rods and linkages all over the place, they decided to just go ahead and move the shifter handle forward so that when you shift, that's second, that's third, that's fourth, right? And so it's very easy to go all the way to fifth and not get anywhere close to that back there. All right, so we close up this video. We're talking about things versus like kit car versus factory built cars. This is a factory built car. Why is that important? Well, because it's built by the same people every day on an assembly line who do this for a living. It's not a kit car that comes to you in boxes and whoever's whoever, not that they're not qualified, but every one of a kit car is going to be different. No two kit cars are exactly alike because someone else is assembling them each time. We pointed out some cool stuff. For instance, the BMW suspension that's on these cars here. This has the almost 400 horsepower backed up by a Tremec 5-speed. And you say 400 horsepower, Tone, is that enough power? Well, at 2,500 pounds, when a regular car weighs over 4,000 pounds, it is more than enough power. It is a handful of power, but these big wheels and tires and this great suspension, these great brakes tie it all together. These polished rivets that are around here. You have real wipers that are here. You have a real windshield that's covered in brass, right? This is a brass windshield that's been polished. You have a mirror, you have wind wings, you have visors, right? You have all of these things that make for a real livable car, not to mention being able to go away for a weekend. In a car like this, you can imagine food tastes better, the company is better. It's just an awesome, awesome time. Anyway, call us 301-816-1000. We'll tell you all about this amazing Backdraft Cobra. And if you don't mind, hit the share button down below there. It helps get our message out. I'm always appreciative of that. Subscribe to the channel. We have new stuff coming out all the time. And don't forget, you might want to share it with your friends. They might see something they like as well. I'll see you on the test drive. You know, we talked about the math equation that I don't get right every time, but it's 50% sound, 50% good looks, and 50% speed. And this is what you get in a car like this. Like, check this out. I love the way the car twists a little bit in between the revs. Woo, how you doing?